the gift. I want to start with a story. It's a story about a very wise king. He was reputed to be the wisest person on the planet. And whenever he was approached with a difficult challenge or problem from one of his courtiers or from one of his people, he would pause and twirl a ring that he always wore on his finger. And in the silence then, he would come up with the words that were required to answer the challenge, to answer the problem that was before him. So in times of sorrow, he would come up with these comforting words that were so powerful. Or if he was confronted with people who were angry, somehow he would come up with words that would melt away that anger and bring peace to those before him. If people were getting a little out of hand, he had a way of speaking words that would give them a sense of humility. And so there was an ambassador who was at his court who noticed this. He saw that he had a gift. And finally one day he asked him, he was overcome with curiosity, he said, "What is your secret? I've watched you deal with all of these people in all these different situations and challenges. And I've noticed that you're always twirling that ring." He said, "Is it the ring? Is it magic? Does it hold some power?" And the king smiled. "It is indeed the secret of whatever success I may have. So in a way, yes, it's a type of magic, but not the type of magic that you're thinking of." And the king took off the ring and held it up to the light, and etched faintly on its flat surface on the inside were some words in an unfamiliar language. And he said, "This is my talisman." And the words are in Sanskrit, and they say, "This too will pass. Only love and beauty will remain." I have found that if I hold these words in my heart as I contemplate the situation before me, that I will come up with the right words to say. The end point of my talk today is that line. This too will pass. Only beauty and love will remain. And that line, in truth, is the culmination of all creation, of life, and of all history. Those words represent our destiny and the destiny of this planet. And I couldn't but help imagine what a life lived from the perspective of these words would look like. Imagine each day, upon awakening, you recite those words like a mantra to yourself. Only love and beauty will remain. You recite it as a mantra, as an invocation, as an intention of how you want to live your life that day, what you want to experience the day to be. It would be a guiding light that shows us how to respond to whatever experience would show up before us then in the day. It would give us the larger perspective of things, not this blinkered perspective that we have about what's right in front of us now. And that's taking our whole viewpoint, if you will. When we would encounter difficult challenges, searing heartache, bitter disappointment, soul-crushing loss, even betrayal, or maybe a slow decline, or sudden threat of disillusion. we would be able to remember that this too will pass, that somehow it will turn into beauty and love. There is a long-held view that being a good person, being a spiritual person, allows one to glide peacefully, gracefully, with ease through life. We even have that prayer, don't we? With peace, ease, and grace. That, of course, is a superstition. It's wishful thinking. And it's understandable from the personality's point of view. I mean, we would all like our lives to be easy, to not have any suffering, to be full of clear, intentional living and manifestation of all of our heart's desires all the time. That's kind of how our software works, isn't it? But it isn't very realistic, is it? I mean, if you think about it, because that is not how we become the bright lights that we are, or the enlightened human divine beings that we are. And there is even a viewpoint that those who encounter setbacks and challenges, who endure loss or suffering or poverty, who deal with difficult situations in their lives continually, are not very spiritual, because these experiences reflect their inner spiritual state of being. This is said to be the mirror. The world is our mirror. It's reflecting what's going on inside of us. They must have low vibration if they're attracting those type of experiences. This is another superstition, another superstitious belief. And we have to be honest here and state that New Thought has been guilty in the past of peddling this type of erroneous and damaging teaching. But we are all evolving, and we're growing out of our superstitions, aren't we? Because we're waking up. You see, if it were true that our experiences reflect a low spiritual vibration, then wouldn't that mean that Jesus, enduring a public humiliation, flogging, sentencing, and horrible, painful death and crucifixion, well, he must have had a low vibration to fit in with that view of the world. Buddha must also have had a very low vibration, because all day long he manifested all these people, and all they ever had were problems and illnesses and sickness. So he too must have had a low vibration. And Mother Teresa also must have had a low vibration, since her daily experience was in the gutter with sick and poor and dying people, people starving to death and dreadful diseases. Wouldn't they reflect her inner state of being if life was a mirror for her consciousness? Think for a moment about your own life. Has there ever been a time or an experience or experiences when you have thought to yourself, oh, this is happening because I have a low vibration, otherwise known as I'm a bad person, I'm not good enough. This is karma coming back because of the things I've done in the past. God is punishing me for being the miserable person that I am. There's a part of us that can easily go there in a heartbeat. I remember in 1990 when I was in a car crash in Hawaii. I was hit from behind, and suddenly this incredible energy went through the car, went through my body, and it was really painful. It hurt like hell. And in that very instant, I immediately went into shock that this experience was happening to me, because I thought I was protected by God from these type of experiences. I never thought I would have an experience like this that God wouldn't let it happen to me. And the next thought that I had was, well, I guess I mustn't be as special as I thought I was. And with that thought, I felt my whole soul, my whole being contract in a generalized sense of guilt or shame, not for anything in particular, but just as a response to the car crash. I like to think of it as a moment of falling from grace, falling out of the knowing of how loved I was, and falling back into a sense of original brokenness rather than wholeness, a sense of separation rather than connection in that moment. Being spiritual or having a high vibration isn't about avoiding or dodging the car crashes of life, or necessarily living a charmed life always. It is about taking the blow sometimes, and about how well and quickly we regain our balance and perspective after the event. It's about riding the waves of suffering, loss, and sorrow, and continuing to know how loved we are despite appearances, despite the superstitious story and the response that our mind often comes up with in these moments. Because our life is an intersection of the human and everything that can throw at us, and the divine. The intersection of knowing who we truly are. It's the place where we can absorb whatever life seems to throw at us and even embrace it fully. And we might not like what it is that we're embracing, but we do anyway. And in so doing, we come to discover our indestructible, eternal, infinite beingness. There's nothing that can destroy me. As St. Paul said, not even death. The incredible lightness of life and being itself can be experienced in those moments. Lightness in terms of not being a burden or heavy, and lightness in terms of being the light of the universe that we are. What a gift! What a truly magnificent gift we have been given. Indestructibility. The ability to bounce back from whatever. We should be dancing in the aisles right now. No takers. I'm really surprised, Bedoya. I thought you would have jumped up. And it's that light that makes sense of chaos, that rests in understanding and peace. And I love that the daily word for the day tied in to the exact words that I've written, of course, in my talk. The peace beyond all understanding. We don't necessarily need to even understand what's going on and why, but somehow we can be at peace with it. That's a gift too. And that's what we are exploring in these days of Advent. As I said, Advent means arrival or coming. And this spiritual time, the season, is preparing us for the arrival or the coming of a knowing that we are universal, cosmic, divine light beings in human form. See, the universal human known as Jesus the Christ is an archetype. So it's like reading Greek mythology, or it's like reading Grimm's fairy tales. There's deep wisdom here, archetypal, which means that somehow it's already in us. And then when we hear it, when we read it, it comes alive in us. And what it means is that he was a blueprint, a prototype for every human divine being who was to step forth into manifestation on this planet. When we celebrate his birth and his life, we are celebrating ourselves. This is the metaphysics of the whole nativity story. His story is our story, and we are asked to take a look at his experience and to discover the same patterns at work in ours. We look at his life, the life of the Buddha, of any sage, guru from any tradition, and we see our potential in our lives and how we might respond to something similar in our experience. It doesn't mean that we are going to be literally crucified to a cross, but yes, we will have our moments of crushing weight. The heaviness of life will bring us to our knees. Suffering, loss, pain, death. And we will look to find the understanding in the teaching or the example provided by the guru, the sage, the master, the wayshower, that will guide us in our response in our lives. And yes, we will also be prompted to respond from superstition. After all, there have been thousands of years of superstitious responses and stories by millions of people. It's in the air. We've been indoctrinated with it. We've been conditioned by our families. It's the collective unconscious. And I dipped into it big time in that car crash. It lurks beneath the surface, and when the surface is scratched sufficiently by an experience that we don't like, that is dramatic enough, or one that we dislike intensely, it can raise its head. And the human part of our experience overwhelms the divine understanding. And that's okay. That's part of the human divine journey. It's just how it is. Even Jesus had a moment in the Garden of Gethsemane. There it is in the archetypal story for all of us to see. We'll have these responses, these knee-jerk reactions. We will drop in consciousness. But that isn't the important thing. It's about how quickly we can recover our high vibrational ability to respond with a divine perspective. These moments have only one purpose, and that is to offer us an opportunity to evolve and grow through courageous choices and responses. And they are courageous. We have to give ourselves credit. We are very courageous people. If we never had these type of challenges, we would never choose the next highest step in evolution. We would rest comfortably wherever we're at. We would rest on our laurels and say, no, I'm doing fine here. I don't want to be that spiritual or that much mastery. I'll just hang out here. And in a sense, all of life is only asking one question of us. Are you divine? Are you divine? Are you divine now? Are you still divine? Do I still believe that I am divine, that I am love, and that I am light, despite this experience? You see, we came here exactly for this experience, for exactly how each one of our lives is unfolding. As the one power and one presence, we made that choice before time and space was a reality. And this is really important. We chose before time, before creation, to come here as who we are right now. So it's not a mistake. It is a deliberate choice. And it wasn't some remote, infinite God, a distant God, who chose this for me before time began. It was me as the infinite, eternal, divine, choosing to come here as me. And if that wasn't true, then it would be a separate divine being choosing this exact life and experience for me and thrusting it unwillingly upon me. It will be his choice or her choice, not mine. See, that's the old superstitious theology again. That being said, my life and yours is a gift that we have chosen freely to give ourselves as this particular human experience with all of its warts and flaws and its uniqueness and its beauty and individuation. We truly are anointed, divine human beings. Every bit as much as the Buddha, every bit as much as Jesus. We are loved, and we are the light of the cosmos, not just of this world. We ought, as I said, to be dancing in the aisles. Receive the gift of this, because it's only in receiving it that we can enjoy it and share it in communion with others. That's why we're on the planet, to be that family that they sang about so beautifully at the beginning of the service. For all of us to wake up to that inner knowing of the light and the presence and the power of God in us, and that we share that in communion with each other. It's meant to be a celebration. Life is meant to be a celebration. This life that we have chosen before time began. It's kind of silly not to appreciate our own choices, isn't it? And it's worth remembering then the mantra, the line from the king and his ring. This too will pass. Only love and beauty will remain. The gift that we prize above all others is our true divine nature, our divine self that was there before the beginning of time and will be there after the end, the love and the beauty that we are. So I invite us to take these words into a time of meditation.